Hi everyone. So today we'll be looking a bit into interesting decentralized waste governance model that I have been fortunate to be part of while my stint at the Ashoka Trust for Research in Ecology and the Environment, which is a Bangalore-based think tank, and I was part of its Vembanad office where we focused on participatory conservation of the heavily used wetland. In case of Vembanad, it's the Vembanad wetland region, which provides livelihood to almost 1.5 million people. And while ATRI CRC, which is the office in Vembanad in Alapura, was part of several programs in facilitating participatory conservation of this wetland region. One of the prominent projects that we worked was on developing Mohamma region, a panchayat, local village in Alapura, to become a model wetland village. And this particular project spanned for a period of 3.5 years. And one of the reasons why we chose this village predominantly was that the governance system or the local body there was very positive and wanted to work with us closely in a transformative program. And also this was relatively near just uh, around 20 to 30% of people population here dependent on clam and fishing, and we already used to work closely with the community in this region, especially in terms of setting up the lake protection forum, which are federations of community members formulated to preserve and conserve the Vembanad wetland. And I'll talk about lake protection forum later. But essentially, today in this video, we'll look into what are the experiences from the waste management and waste governance improving work that we have done along with the Mohamma local body, or the panchayat as it is called in India, and how we worked on improving the systems there and what are the learnings that we have had. Now, to talk about waste, uh, uh, what is the most important issue that waste brings in, uh, and especially plastic waste brings in? The biggest challenge of plastic in as a whole across the globe is that of how it affects water bodies, because uh, when plastic enters any water body, be it the river or the ocean, it disintegrates after a long time exposure and forms into small particles, then gets into fishes. Fishes are being consumed by human beings, and it enters our body. And apparently now, um, wherever you look in the air, in the water, in the blood as well, you find plastic. Um, and if you ask me, is plastic a problem? I mean, it is a problem if not managed and consumed in moderation. But I would also use this time to tell that without plastics, we wouldn't have reached so much development that we have achieved now. I mean, in fact, the phone I'm recording now has a lot of plastic. The laptop or everything, literally everything has plastic in it. But once human beings started to realize the problem that plastic is causing, slowly started solutions being developed also. But the solution didn't scale as much as how we wanted it, or solution didn't scale as much as plastic consumption grew. Kerala and most of South Asia, I guess, haven't been using plastic very much, at least 5 to 10 years before now. It used it in moderation, only in few products, especially electronics, etc. But mostly, mm, families in villages, there was a culture of just getting everything in paper or leaves, especially fish, or even when you buy grocery, it's all given in cloth bags, or you have your own cloth bag, because of which plastic was not a big issue. But now every small village you go to, you see a lot of sachets of be it the milk powder, coffee powder, shampoo, and whatnot. and literally everything comes in plastic. And with globalization and increase in demand, the amount of plastic and the types of plastic that we have now has grown too. And at this point of time, when I was working on this project on Model Wetland Village, um, the state government has already put out a ruling saying all local bodies are responsible for the plastic being produced, and it was already creating a system that can help the local bodies take action in terms of collecting of waste and segregating it and sending it out to recycling or managing waste. Um, and in general, there was a lot of campaigns happening on need to um, get rid of plastic or manage plastic in its most proper way. Now, today we look into how what are the learnings from the project that I've had, where we worked closely with the panchayat in streamlining and improving the decentralized waste governance and panchayat-led service delivery in this rural area, especially in terms of solid waste management. Uh, the intervention that we did was very diverse and innovative in nature because we had multiple kinds of work. So one was the straw campaign, where no straw campaign, where we had a lot of interns come in this particular project. Over a period of 3 years, we had around 90 interns who were part of this project at various points of its time. And in the start of the project, one intervention was that of a no straw campaign, where we mobilized public support to abolish straw in this panchayat. And while we went to from shop to shop doing a campaign to ask, especially bakeries which served juice with straws, plastic straws, and tender coconut vending vendors, etc., and hotels and restaurants to stop plastic straw. We also subsidized and gave them some paper straw as an alternative for them to try and experience, because just asking them to stop wouldn't make sense. You also had to tell them what is an alternative and also give them the opportunity to test what an alternative looks like, because of which we procured paper straws. At least 500 each was given in each shop so that they had it for a period of time. We put together contact numbers of paper straw distributors. At that point, paper straws were not the best in terms of having a juice that would take at least 20 minutes to sip. That, I mean, it would be soggy and you will have to drink it then separately. But eventually now we have better paper straws that stay for a very long time. Even there are straws from arecanut, coconut, leaf, etc. Also made from degradable materials that are available in market, which are pretty strong and much better than plastic. So one of the intervention was to nudge them to take an alternative decision to move from straws. The other major work that we did was to improve the collection and segregation in at the source level itself. Now, already in Kerala, there was the state government has been pushing all the local self-government institutions to have proper segregation, and they also created a standardized system of having Harida Karma Sena, which is a set of waste workers in every ward in a panchayat. So generally a panchayat would have X number of wards based on the geographical size and also the population density. I think in Muhammad there were around 12 wards. So each ward had like two people who were assigned to collect waste. And now it's interesting how in various regions this is done differently. Uh, you know, I'll come to a very interesting story of how Harida Karma Sena members are chosen. Harida Karma Sena members are formed as a collective so that they can generate income from waste, utilize it as their salary by dividing it among the members. And where does the income come from? Number one, the income comes from the user fee that is being collected from households. So every household who needs the waste collected under this multi-level environmental governance scheme has to like really provide a user fee every month for waste being collected, which In villages, it used to be rupees 50, which is less than a dollar. In urban centers, it's usually 100. Now I don't know if it might have changed. But this was the introductory period of how households were asked to provide a fee to collect their waste. No one was happy. Frankly, even now, a lot of people are not happy about the paying a fee to collect their waste. Now, I mean, when they look at it, until now, they've always just throw away the waste or burned it. Um, Not that people in Kerala are bad or people are generally bad. It's just that that's how it has happened over a very long time. It's a behavioral thing, right? And to make this change, to nudge them to altogether make a shift, and even to be able to have to spend X amount of money on because someone to collect waste was not new. And also, I mean, it's not people, community members in this region didn't earn so much or didn't have a stable income. Now, talking about stable income, this is also a region which has been impacted by climate change and plastic pollution, because as I said, a small chunk of the population is dependent on fishing and clam. Because of plastic pollution in the water bodies, fish population has been declining. The density and diversity of fishes have been also been affected, because of which the catch is affected. If the catch is affected, their income is affected. So it's all connected. And uh, I mean, in a way, it's also important that the community understands that plastic has to have to go to the Vembanad Lake, which is the region where they stay, and make a living out of. So it was the need of the community also, but to make this mental shift of having to pay for to someone to collect was not that easy. Um, so on one end, the Haridharma Sena, the waste collectors were already been they had identified, and in the initial period of introducing of this program, the government had given a small grant to all LSGs, local government institutions, to provide a salary to the Haridharma Sena, which eventually, according to them, within 6 months or say 1 year, had to come automatically from the user fee that has been collected and the selling of the waste. So how does the Haridharma Sena work? Let's say if there are 10 wards, 2 members each, there are 20 people. 20 people have to, mostly predominantly women, have to generate an income from the waste being collected. So one is the user fee that brings in money. The second is the selling of the waste, which also means that from each household, when waste has been collected, especially plastic, households are being advised to put together their plastic waste together and keep it together. And this is being collected by the Haridharma Sena on a monthly basis. That is how it happens. And also, alternatively, in alternating months or so, they collect different other materials too. So some months they also collect e-waste, some months they also collect chappals or rubber waste, some months they also collect paper waste, like that. And once the plastic is collected, it's been segregated in a facility, small facility that has been provided by the local government institution. Many a time not a very healthy surrounding, or sometimes there are no systems in place. I mean, I am now in the UK. I do see, yes, a lot of systems in place of having standard operating procedures or so, but there are no systems in place because these have been tried and tested for the first time ever. So essentially, the Haridharma Sena is supposed to compile and collect funds from these sources, and how do they make income by selling plastic? Once they have a substantial amount of plastic, let's say a particular type of plastic, which is used by an industry for recycling, or let's say cement manufacturing process or so, they can sell it. The high density polymer, which are usually the hard plastic ones, the hard plastic that you see in the shell of a TV, or a shell of any material like a speaker, is a high density polymer. Even a bucket is a high density one, which often fetch pretty decent amount, I think about rupees 10 per kilo or so, which can be recycled multiple times. While the low density polymers not completely can be recycled, and there are various types of low density ones. There are the worst is the multi-layered plastic, where there are multiple layers, not just plastic but also paper in it, which which can't be really recycled. So there are these various types of grades of plastic. You can see in the below bottom of a bottle what type of plastic it is. Now, uh, 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 so various types of these plastics are compiled and is collected and being sold, which brings an income technically. But again, to bring an income, they should be knowing sellers whom they can sell this to. So there are a lot of these connections that had to be made in the initial stages of this whole waste management as a process being introduced in a village or a region. While there has also been some success models elsewhere, and that's where I would like you to take you to this particular municipality in Malappuram, uh, headed by headed as in a local organization there, headed by Manalil Mohanan, who is an amazing person to meet. He had been working with this particular municipality. I'm forgetting the name, but I'm sure when it comes by, I'll let you know. Manal Mohanan had come, and he this particular municipality has been a model. So before we started working in Mohamma, we had actually gone to this particular municipality and learned about how it's been done there, and what has been done there, and what is a interesting model that they have, and how they have been they have one of the best systems in terms of waste management, and how they have set up their material collection facility, etc. So we have extensively went there. So Hariali is an organization that has been led by Manal Mohanan. So when we went there, he really explained how in this particular region, that yeah, Vadagara is a municipality. I just found it on Google. So in Vadagara municipality, they have selected the Haridharma Sena members. What is the support that is given to Haridharma Sena members? What is the kind of initiatives that are there to ensure that these self-help groups generate an income out of the work that they do, and a decent income out of the work that they do. So Manalil Mohanan explained on the hiring process itself. They brought in a system where uh, the job for waste workers or Hardha Karmasena workers were opened up, and people joined. People applied for it, mostly women again, and they took an interview of women who wanted to work in waste collection and segregation, and telling them what are the nitty gritty things. I mean, what do they go through? What is the process? It is way to you have to deal with waste and all of that. And they also asked a question, uh, on what is the income expectation that they have, and if the income expectation matches the actual uh, 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 I mean, actual figure of what they had, the municipality had in their mind of giving or providing the workers, then they sort of went on to the next stage of selection. So they pulled in a list of people who matched the expectation of salary that the municipality will be able to give at that point of time. Uh, so that they're clear on expectations. It's not that someone asks for 50,000 rupees, and if the municipality is not able to give it, there is no point of taking that person forward. So more like a corporate system of how you match expectations or so. Now this was done so that the waste workers knew what they're up for, and that they want to grow this as a collective. Uh, and interestingly, at that point of time, I'm not sure how Vadagara is doing now or so, but at that point of time, the system got so advanced that every person in the team stayed for a very long time. Everyone ensured that they worked as a collective, as a group, for improving the waste management in the region. And most interestingly, they also find a lot of alternative income streams for ensuring that the Haridharma Sena members bring in more money to the pool that they can use as salary from. And one was the LED repair. They repaired, they took LED bulbs that went off from, was not working, and then they repaired LEDs, gave it back, charged a fee. They had a repair workshop in Vadagara, where there were various other electronic also being repaired. They had upcycled bags made from saris, etc. So this was a big learning for us. Apart from that, they also told us that in Vadagara they gave uniform to all workers, and also they try to ensure that they are being exposed to sessions once in a while in with people in Vadagara or Kerala who for example were collector in the district Malappuram. They brought in the DGP to talk to the workers, because it was important to keep them motivated. In the reason is why the reason is because in the initial years of waste management, as I said, people were hesitant to give the user fee. A lot of workers across the country, across the state also, has faced issues of people thrashing them or actually physically abusing and giving saying bad words and whatnot. It was really rough. From even what I know, even in Muhamma we had seen this. But what Vadagara did different was that they ensured that these people, doctors, psychologists, DGP, collector, etc., came and took sessions for them, talked to them, told them that they are there for anything that happens. If someone is not acting well, or if a household is not paying, they are ready to you know act upon, take a case or so. So such kind of support system that was developed was quite crucial for the waste workers, and provided them the necessary motivation to continue what they're doing, because it's not easy to be a waste working in the waste management sector. I mean, I could talk about it more because I also know Jabir from Greenworms, who has done phenomenal work in terms of waste management and actually setting up a model of scalable waste management model in Kerala. Uh, okay, coming back to Muhammad, we learned from Badagara a lot of these lessons. So we tried to replicate some of this. We brought in experts, had hosted sessions for the collectors, tried to see how we can increase their income, uh, tried to provide them with a uniform glove as well, because collecting waste and segregating waste is not so easy, because you can find syringes, you can find glass material, and it was not easy. So provided gloves to them, and also we included the panchayat, the local body, as much as possible in this whole process. And more than that, we also provided an institutional capacity building to the panchayat, to the ward members. Ward members are essentially the elected members from each ward in these regions, to be able to talk to the public to ensure that they pay the user fee, how it's collected, etc. We also tried to bring in the waste collectors, who could then pay a higher fee for the plastic waste which is being collected, so that they go for recycling or reprocessing, but the collective gets a good income. So essentially, one of the major work was to improve the governance, or the waste governance in this region. It was not easy though, because it came with a lot of hiccups. For example, in the first 6 months, there was a grant from the government to the panchayat to pay the waste workers, called Haritha Karma Sena workers. But after the 6 months period, though, 100%, not 100% of the people, public, were giving the user fee. Very only around 30 to 40% were giving, which was not sufficient to ensure that all the waste workers get paid monthly a decent income, which still was very small, and at least only if we reach 80 to 90% of people giving the user fee, will they get a decent income? There had to be an additional source of income as well. So in the, I mean, the state government couldn't support after the initial 6 or 8 months. Then the panchayat had to try to pull in money. So there was a lot of uncertainties there. Some of the Haridharma Sena workers had to leave. Then what happened is that those people who started to give on a monthly basis, the user fee stopped to give because the users felt that the waste collection is not happening properly, the waste is not being collected. They started to again go back to the usual systems. So there, it's not that like one particular intervention can sort the whole thing. It is a series of things that had to be corrected, one after the another. So, and this sort of cycle has happened across the state. There are a lot of papers and news reports that keep on like bashing the government, saying that the government is not doing anything, the local bodies are not doing anything. I don't know, I mean, how much they have really looked into the facts in terms of what is happening in the at the local level, what is happening with people, what is the psyche of people. It doesn't, they just write because I feel sometimes they just want more attention. And but frankly speaking, there are a lot of minute things that go into improving a whole waste management system and improving the integrated system that we have. um, so yeah, essentially, there are multiple of these small and big issues that had to be sorted. On one end, there needs to be integrated waste management system. On one end, we need to empower the public on knowing what is segregation, why we need to segregate, how it can be segregated, and those can only be done through various constant talking, awareness, giving sessions for school children, young learners. um, then also integrating technology. Nowadays, some panchayats do have scanning system. The waste workers can go scan a QR code. They can take the picture of the plastic collected, enter the kilogram of plastic collected. I think Greenworms is also brilliantly doing that now, I guess. So it's all documented very well. At the source level itself, it's documented, which means you don't have to go back and again check the weight of how much waste is collected, uh, 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 and all. I'm in UK right now. The waste that we put in here in my house in Whitley Bay is all going mixed waste. I don't know whether it's ever be recycled or segregated. I mean, at least from our end, we are segregating it. So we have something separate for organic and separate for plastic and paper, and we put it separately. But we don't know if it's going to recycle. But Kerala has been doing this, and several other regions in India has been doing a brilliant job out there, and I really appreciate that. And for such a system to be developed at the local level, at decentralized level, is wow. And whoever is doing that well, and all local bodies, wow, just wow. Now, also to add, so we extensively worked across these angles. As I said, one is the consumer side, one is on improving the waste management systems to create systems in place for the collection, standard operating procedures for collection, systems to coordinate and collaborate, systems to ensure that there is a no financial uncertainties for waste workers, because they have a stable flow of income so that they don't feel demotivated and go for another job or take up another work, so that it all goes in parallel. So resource recovery is where, once if families have segregated, it becomes easy for them to like collect and recover. And apart from these, we also built a lot of circular economy models in this panchayat, through collecting cloth waste and then being converted into bags. Around 30,000 kilograms of cloth waste was converted into bags. I'll talk about it further later. And we try to improve the decentralized material recovery facility that they have, which is there across various panchayats. We also tried to bring in EPR, which is extended producer responsibility, at local scale, but didn't really happen a lot. But one thing we ensured was to ensure like greater citizen participation in waste governance, also behavioral change and behavioral change communication. We try to bring in community-based monitoring to all these by empowering and capacity building the local bodies. A lot of literacy around waste literacy was done in schools and colleges nearby. Um, we try to bring in a lot of innovation in waste management. Now, while organic waste was not necessarily a big problem in this such a region, because most households would have a big area of land where they would just put the organic waste out as they would just disintegrate or form part of the soil, or give it to the cattle, if it's good food, or cats or dogs that are there around. And necessarily it doesn't really cause a misery unless it's a hotel dumping their big organic waste. But what we essentially did here in Mohama also was to build, as part of the social innovation lab that we have built with the panchayat, we tried to see how biopods can be developed, where organic waste is being converted into through the biopods, is being utilized to develop black soldier fly larvae. Black soldier fly is a particular kind of fly that uh, consumes food waste and produce larvae, eggs that lay egg on the food waste area and produce larvae. The larvae consumes the food waste, and again that grows, and it's a cycle that follows. Now, essentially, we try to build biopods, which are these structures where there is automatically larvae that grows and comes out of these biobins, where organic waste is fed, and the larvae is collected, and the larvae can be then fed to chicken farms or fish farms where they can use it as feed. So total circularity is what we have tried to do. And in fact, we have given smaller models of around 20 models to households with chicken farming, because they have very small chicken coops where for eggs or for meat they have chicken. And so essentially we're trying to build a circular model across on this front of biopods, on developing biopods. I remember Anu and Manija, who are again zoologists, and insect expert Priyan, who's also our principal investigator. We're working on this. I was supporting in whatever way possible, extensively, especially in terms of the integration into the existing governance work. And in all this work, while I was leading the project there in Mohamma, Devika, who came as an intern and then joined us full time, and Rima was extensively working on this waste aspect along with us, who formed an integral part of leading the local level, along with the women there, the panchayat people there, building and also ensuring that there is the youth involvement, and also that waste working is dignified. There is a dignified livelihood for workers in waste, and also ensure that there is no kind of issue that the system faces. So overall, over a period of 3 years, we worked in Roundup Waste Governance, and it was quite an interesting experience. So what is the takeaway? Now, the takeaway is, one is that in order to build a system, it might take 4 to 10 years actually to build a proper system, because always there could be hiccups, and especially when you're trying to implement waste management at the local level, the most important thing is to have that will for the local government institution. If that will is there, there is certainly going to be a way. The second important thing is finance, having finance. So before any such transformational work happen in any local body, especially in other states in India, if they are trying to do this, I believe the most important thing to look at is how can we have the finance at least prepared for 2 years to have that initial system running. Then only will the user fee part come in and all. While it's not just enough to have a system that is in place, but it's also important to have behavioral insights and behavioral change put in place, to have a system for building awareness. I see very much very much becomes part and integral part of whole waste management system that has been built. Mm, Apart from that, also having these various other components, uh, unlike local baling facility where waste can be collected and baled, or shredding facility where a particular kind of waste can be plastic can be shredded so that it's easy to transport or sell at a higher value, is all important. Um, More importantly, also to see how some of the waste collected in the region can be converted into various other products in the region itself, like how cloth waste can be converted into bags, thus extending the life of cloth waste, which I'll talk in detail on what we did there. The same way to see what are the sources of waste which is not recyclable. For example, menstrual hygiene waste, the menstrual pads that have been used after and been discarded, which on the diaper which is being used by very young children and also elderly, they can't be necessarily recycled. Even now there are wet systems, but is currently being incinerated at a very high temperature. So in the case of Muhamma, what we did is we partnered with Image, which is a centralized state-run facility to manage hospital waste. Image does collect, if we request for a small user fee, they do collect waste monthly once or weekly once, and send it to high temperature burning systems, where I think it burns between 800 to 1400 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure on that. I forgot. But essentially, it has less emission residue and instead just have mostly powder that comes out in terms of the burning. And this is certainly the only system now available, but there are startups that are working on alternatives which hopefully would scale fast. uh, One of the most interesting and impactful work under this circular economy sector, or the intervention that we did, was certainly to also work on providing alternatives to menstrual practices. In this particular village, we had a lot of women were not necessarily even using pads but old clothes or so, because it was a choice between to buy milk for their children or pads, right? So spending on pads certainly is a cost, and when you have a lot of uncertainty in terms of climate change impacting their livelihoods, you can't really invest on something like pads. And but at the same time, it affected the health and well-being of women. So one of the interventions was also to work on providing alternatives that they can access if they wish to, not as forcing, but if they wish to. So there was a big project under this one where we provided subsidized cloth pads and cups, menstrual cups, which I will discuss in detail later. But this was being done through word of mouth marketing, as in not marketing essentially, but we introduced the cups and cloth pads as an alternative to a few groups, especially ASHA workers, which are government health workers, by the panchayat, who are mostly volunteers. We introduced this to them, and they started to try and use it. And there were a lot of questions, answers. Uh, it was led directly by Rima and Devika on the ground, and and slowly within 2 or 3 years there was a large scale adoption of cloth pads and cups across the community. We tried to subsidize it, uh, not giving for free, which is certainly to be done in any such projects. Don't give anything for free. They will choose it if they want it, but for a subsidized price, giving it certainly gives them the choice of whether to have it or not, or and only keep it if it's required or else not. So I'll talk about it more in future videos if I make. But essentially speaking, to build a decentralized waste system is not easy. I yet haven't covered a lot of different aspects about the type of plastics and how it's being collected, more about RRFs, MCFs, etc. But hopefully in future I will. But I thought this is going to be helpful to have video on what was done in this panchayat and waste governance. Thank you.